In this video, I'm going to go over some sample feedback for the math assessment and have you practice providing that kind of specific feedback to the students. So in Canvas, you have a link to a document with the practice student we scored together in class and my feedback to them. I did not provide feedback on items 1 or 2 because the student totally missed those items, and I wanted to focus on areas that a little bit of feedback could have made a difference. Make sure that you go beyond good job and instead explain why the student did that well, or why what they need to do differently. So for these problems, she missed all of 1A and 1B and 2. And so I can't give her enough feedback to be able to fix those without doing an extensive, a ton of writing. And so instead, I'm just going to pull her in a small group and work with them and just comment that we're going to keep working on those. For the next ones, she got 2 of them correct for number 3 and missed number 4, but I decided that I would give specific feedback for another example rather than that one. She got all of these correct. I just wrote +4. I decided to give feedback on the 2 ratio problems. You can choose any 2 problems to give specific feedback on. You want to make sure you choose one area to identify a strength and one area to identify an area of need. So this is an area of need. She set it up correctly, but she made an error. So the comment I provided for her in the feedback was, you set this up correctly. You made an error when you subtracted $42.50 from $4.25. Here, I needed to provide specific feedback why she did a good job there. So in this case, she did this really quickly with just 3 moves on the ratio table. So the feedback I provided to her was, this is the fewest steps to solve the problem, way to go. So I didn't just say way to go or good job. I explained what it was that she did well. Now you're going to write specific feedback to this student. What would you tell them about what they did well or what they needed to work on? In that example, the student solved the problem correctly. So I want to make sure that I highlight what they did well and what I was looking for in that problem. So the student correctly wrote out the problem, and so I wrote, you correctly wrote out the problem in the standard algorithm and solved it. Another way you could give that feedback is, excellent, you used the standard algorithm correctly. Here you also are going to give specific feedback to the student. This is another example of where a student solved the problem correctly. So what positive feedback would you give to this student? You could say, way to go, you solved this problem in the fewest steps, or you could say you used the ratio table to solve the problem. Both of those are specific feedback that relates to an area of strength. This is a student who solved the problem incorrectly. What feedback would you give this student? Here you could say, you set the table up correctly, you just made a mistake, an adding mistake, and then you would circle the incorrect numbers. And then you could also have written, this could have worked, but you had some adding mistakes. It might work better to go to 10, then 20, then subtract the cost of 1 pair. So either way, it works. You just want to think about what feedback you want to give the student and then a specific error that you're working on with them. This is a student who solved the problem incorrectly. What specific feedback would you give to this child about an area of need? Remember, when you have multiply the 800 times 5, you have to add the 100 that you wrote above when you solved and multiplied 20 times 5. Or you could write, you set this up correctly. I noticed an error when you were regrouping in your first partial product. Let's chat. So you can either give specific feedback that would help them figure out what they did wrong, or tell them where the error is and find a time to meet with that student.